Oh, hey, you startled me. Anyway, while we're here, let's do a little bit of math. Yesterday, we were working on subtracting decimals. With our subtracting decimals, we had three rules. The first rule is that we always need to make sure that we line up our decimals. Yes, I'm going to use this nice brown right here. Use line up our decimals. Always line up the decimals because when we line up the decimal points, that lines up our place values. All right, so in our second example, we lined up those decimal points and we subtracted and we had to borrow. So we just need to make sure that we borrow from the 1. That 6 turns into a 16, just like normal. All right, the third one is where it got a little bit tricky. So over here on the third one was 46 and 3/10 minus 18. We still know, or I'm sorry, we recognize that the 18 did not have anything. It was just a whole number. So since it's a whole number, we have to add a decimal point to the end. I noticed that some of you messed that up when you were taking your Ed puzzle yesterday. We add a decimal point to the end, and then it still equals that same 18. If we put it before it, it would only be 18 hundredths, which is less than one whole. 18 is not the same as 18 hundredths. I would rather have $18, not 18 cents. Anyway, that's my dog barking. Don't worry about her. She's annoying. So continuing, we put our decimal point at the end. After we put the decimal point at the end, you can see that we lined them up over here. And then we had to add a 0 afterwards. When we add that 0, it's not just a placeholder, but sometimes we're going to have to borrow from it. In this case, it was just simple. 3 minus 0 is 3. In the last one, I wish my dog would stop barking. It was 76 minus 18 and 3/10. So we had to put that decimal point down here. Then we had to add a 0. Then we had to borrow. And so we did 76.0 minus 18.3. We borrowed. We got 57 and 7/10. Cool. That's a review of yesterday. Moving on to today, we're going to do two examples. Pardon my hand jumping in front of your camera right there. We're going to talk about going to the hundredths place, but we're going to keep it relatively easy. Just two examples. Not too bad. So let's say we have 34 and 6/10 minus 6, let's say 17. 17 and 45 hundredths. Oh, that's crazy. Same rule. Rule number 1 is we line up our decimal points. So I'm going to write, nope, that is definitely not this. I got to move my face down. There we go. Okay, so let's try this again. I have to write 34 and 6/10 sloppily. Underneath it, I need to line up my decimal points. So my decimal point goes here. Then I'm going to put the 17 here. And then I'm going to put 4, 5. Now we should notice that my bottom number goes to the hundredths place. My top number does not. I cannot just bring this 5 straight down like this and say, hey, that 5 just drops down magically. No, that doesn't work like that. What you have to do is you have to balance with zeros like we talked about. Now it's like we're doing 60 minus 45. I can't do 0 minus 5, so I have to borrow from the 6, which turns it into a 5. 0 turns to a 10. 10 minus 5 is 5. 5 minus 4 is 1. Bring down that decimal point, y'all. Can't do 4 minus 7, so I got to borrow. This 3 turns to a 2. This 4 turns to a 14. 14 minus 7 is 7. 2 minus 1 is 1. We get 17 and 15 hundredths. 3 rules. 1, line the decimal points up. 2, balance with zeros. 3, borrow if you have to. Bring down your decimal point. I feel like I'm forgetting something because I'm trying to rush. Let's go to our last example. So for the last example, I'm going to use magenta because that's a color. And let's say it's 45 minus 19 and 36 hundredths. Whoa. Slow down, Mr. Lanka. No, I'm going to keep going. So same thing as last time. This number here does not have a decimal point. So what do we do? What do we do? We add it to the end. Good. So it would be 45 decimal point. Now we can line up the number beneath it. It's 19 and 36 hundredths. Don't touch your face. That's how you spread germs. Up top, I can't just bring down. I have to balance with zeros. 0, 0. Now we got to borrow. Yep, borrow from your neighbor. 5 turns to a 4. The 0 turns to a 10. Well, we still can't do 0 minus 6. So we got to borrow from that 10. That 10 turns to a 9. This 0 turns to a 10. All right, now we're in business. 10 minus 6 is 4. 9 minus 3 is 6. Bring down that decimal point. 4 minus 9 is non-existent, so I'm going to borrow. This 4 turns to a 3. That turns to a 14 minus 9 is 5. 3 minus 1 is 2. And I get 25 and 64 hundredths. So step 1, line up those decimal points. Step 2, make sure that you balance things out with 0 so that they all have the same amount of place values. Step 3, if you have to borrow, do it correctly. Don't mess up. And step 4 is bring that decimal point down. There's the camera over here. Bring the decimal point down into your answer. All right, guys, keep up the good work. Email me, Google Hangout, chat, whatever you call it me. If you need to, whatever. Make sure that you're doing your work. Make sure you're asking your questions if you have them. Also, stay safe, stay healthy. And I'm bummed I don't get to see you guys that much.